Where's your co-host based out of?
She is in Belgium.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. She's a Filipino lady who who has her own past traumas and through the process of getting, of healing herself, she learned some treatments that are really effective, and she helped me a lot. When I first got into AA, it was after 7 years of Al-Anon. Oh, here she is. And so after several years of Al-Anon, I get into AA, but I'm still filled with resentments. And I learned in AA that that is what my problems really are based on.
Right.
And I was just filled with rage. I was all pissed off about some of the things that had happened to me in my life due to my codependent behaviors. And Celie and I,
Hello,
hey, how
good
you doing?
There she is.
good afternoon. Sorry I'm late. I was having problem with connection. I don't know what.
No problem.
Hey Brian, it's good to
How are
have you.
you? Is it Selena? Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Selena. Okay. Okay, I see it. Selena. All right.
Yep.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. How are you, Brian?
I'm pretty good. It's a nice day here on the outskirts of Philadelphia. You know, my home group
Nice.
is on Sunday morning, so I got that in already.
Right.
That's great. That's great.
I was just
Great.
giving Brian some of the backstory about how we met and, how you became my co-host on this show. And I was explaining how, when I first got into AA, I was kind of filled with rage and I was having lots of anger issues. And after I butt heads with Selena, I ended up apologizing to her, making an amends, and she helped me out with this process she uses called rapid transformation therapy. And it's basically guided meditations that helped me overcome the desire to give in to my anger all the time. And so it was extremely instrumental in my recovery. Even though I
Right.
learned what was wrong with me in AA, without her treatments, I don't think I'd be anywhere near this far today. I was really holding on to anger.
Nice. And how long ago was this?
Uh, so at least a couple of years,
Okay.
you know.
So you said that you were in Al-Anon. What brought you to Al-Anon? Did you have you because that's for families who deal with alcoholics.
Right, and that's kind of ironic too. I started in Al-Anon in 1989 after going to some AA meetings and thinking, well, I'm not as bad as those guys.
Okay.
And I got into Al-Anon because I was dating a girl at the time who dumped me, and I was trauma bonded to her, and it was devastating for me. So her mother suggested I go into Al-Anon, and I went into that thinking I was going to get her back, which
Ah,
which didn't happen. But I got in some, about 4 years of recovery there, and thought I graduated, and I stopped going. And the thing was, is at the time, I recognized that I was an alcoholic, but I didn't realize how big of a problem it was for me, and I didn't realize that the disease, all these addictions, are progressive.
yeah.
So, I was a high functioning addict at the time that I was in that original program, and I had an 11-year dry drunk. And then after another series of events, I got back into Al-Anon. And then one day I just finally hit bottom with my drinking, where I realized not only am I an alcoholic, but I can't handle it. It's a real problem for me and I
Right.
need help.
You realize that you weren't so much a highly functioning addict, you were a highly delusional addict.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I think we all come to that point where the denial is gone and you're face to face with it. And at that point, it's like, what do you do? That's probably the biggest part for me when there was a lot of desperation involved when I got clean because of I just burnt my life down to the ground, and anybody that loved me, I took all their hopes and dreams. But it's a great day when you actually realize I've been lying to myself here,
Right.
and I got a bigger problem. How about the fact that you know, might even on a deeper level, it's not so much, yo, this alcohol's a problem, like I'm the problem. I'm just trying to find a solution in this drink or this drug, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is,
Sorry again. Sorry, gentlemen. I don't
no
know
problem.
what's happening. Okay, I hope I stay. Sorry. What
Yeah,
did I miss?
I can hear you, Celine. I can't see you.
Oh, okay.
There you go. You can see you now.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that I teach people is that denial is a sincere state of mind. We genuinely do not see how
Right.
bad it is until you have that psychic change where you hit a final bottom and go, wait, I can't do this anymore. Because I had many bottoms with alcohol. There were so
Sure.
many times that I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. And then somehow I'd go back to it anyway. But that final bottom was just, it was just an awakening. You know, I consider that, I consider the first step one of the many spiritual awakenings that you have in recovery.
Yeah, definitely. And that denial thing, it's it kind of reflects on we're in denial ourselves, and you know how most of society views us is it's kind of like this thing, like, well, if you wanted to stop, you would. You know what I mean? If we're, you know, you're doing this to yourself. You want to do this, you know. But you know, my sponsor, I've been clean a little over 7 years, and one of the things he has drilled into my head was, listen, it's better to be understanding than to be understood. So to sit there and try to have someone see it your way, like you know, I promise you that I was using against my own will.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's a rough thing. I get it. You know.
Yeah, and I when I watched your first step video, and you know, we have a lot of common ground because I agree that, you know, and that's the whole premise of the show is that there's many modes, there's many different programs for recovery,
Sure.
and that, you know, they're all similar in the sense that they're going to help you develop self-awareness and learn how to let go of harmful things. And the only real difference is in what kind of an inventory are you doing? You know,
Right.
what things are you inventory about yourself? Because in the codependency groups that I'm in, it's a completely different set of character defects that we look at as opposed to NA or AA.
Right. And it also goes to, like, you know, how deep do you want to go? How much effort do you want to put into it to explore yourself and find out why it is the things you why it is you do the things you do? You know what I mean? I think there is levels to the self uh exploration, if you will,
Yeah.
of what we're doing. In that video, what I was trying to stress was, because like Narcotics Anonymous is the program that I chose. It's the 12-step fellowship that I chose. But what I stress in those videos is I'm not here to promote it, but I will promote 12-step recovery in general. I do think there's a very valuable thing contained in those steps for somebody with the disease of addiction. You know what I mean? Um, I don't see it as the only way, but I do think it's beneficial. A program like that has a 12-step format, I believe, is not only beneficial for an alcoholic or an addict or a gambler or an overeater. It's probably beneficial for the whole world. I mean, look at the things that you do in those steps, right? It's about inventory of yourself, searching your fears, the situations you find yourself in. One of my big things was relationships. Like I would find myself with a woman with a different face, but it was the same woman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I to do things like take inventory of yourself, become aware of things, you know, make lists of assets of yourself, because that's hard for people to do a lot of times, see assets of yourself, and to do these things and just continue to check yourself and, you know, what kind of person was I today? I think that's beneficial to anybody.
Right. Yeah, I often describe 12-step recovery as honesty training But you know, and
Right. Good.
we talk
Good.
about
Good.
this a lot on the show. Selena's main customer base is people dealing with childhood traumas. So we're taught to bury that stuff. You don't cry, don't express your feelings, hide it.
Sure.
And so you have all these wounded adults that are attracting negative things into their lives because they never dealt with the past. And so, you know, her process is very much tuned into let's get through those childhood traumas and figure out why you keep attracting toxic people.
Right. Because you seem to, what happens is you run into people that haven't dealt with that, and they've been cut from somebody else, but yet they're bleeding all over you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yes. It's really common for everybody, and it is really very recognizable, the pattern. But like you mentioned about denial, so nothing can happen, nothing can change until you surrender.
Right.
You accept, surrender the denial. Just accept that there is something that is need to be changed or to be deleted, to be, it's, but that is really not simple for those people because they are not aware that there is something.
Right.
That's the reason. And it's really common. And for us, we know, like Jeff always give me the credit about my RTT, the tools that we used, but it would not work if Jeff was not ready.
Sure.
I was also watching few of your videos, Brian, and then this one thing in common, there is the sense of total surrender, that you are willing to really do something because
Yeah.
you acknowledge there is something. You cannot go farther like, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So you are so aware. You both are so aware. And humility. Jeff is, yeah, our first encounter was really terrible. I should say that, but it was blessing in disguise because after that, I saw Jeff, even while reading that message, that was terrible. I still have a copy of it, but it doesn't hurt anymore. It was really, I don't know. I think nothing is, you know, there is a purpose in every encounter. I do believe that. And it
Yeah.
was the right time
Positive
because
and negative.
even while reading the worst words, I feel that there's something in him. I believe there is something in him. He has something that is so, I did not understand the time, but I know now. Because you see, he is so humble, accepting, I am an addict. I am a narcissist. And not so many people will just admit that.
Right.
That's
Oh,
the beauty of
it takes
it.
a lot to get to that point.
Yeah.
You
You
mentioned
too.
awareness. I tell people, I was given the gift of desperation first.
Right.
And then through the process of the step work, I was given the gift of awareness. Awareness is a huge thing because once you're aware of something, you're not ignorant to it no more. And that's when I think the denial starts to shed off, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. And there is what you call like um knowledge action gap. People easily know something, but to take action, that is another thing.
Right.
Yes.
Right, right. Because as I mentioned earlier, I mean, I started my recovery in 1989, but then I fought with the bottle for another 35 years. I knew I was an alcoholic, but somehow I still thought it was manageable,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
and that's the
That is the
insanity of it.
gap is so big, so hard to bridge the gap.
Right. So like in my 12-step program, and I believe all the third steps pretty much the same. It talks about making a decision to turn your will and your life over to the care of the God of your understanding is what it says. Um, That's just a decision. It's like I heard in rehab one time, the counselor goes, there's three frogs on the log. One decides to jump. How many's left? And everybody's saying two. And he goes, no, there's still three. One only decided to jump.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between making a decision and taking the
Yeah,
action. You know what I mean? So you're
it's
right
very
about that.
powerful. Yes,
Yeah.
true.
So yeah, and
So,
go ahead,
yeah.
Selena.
Yeah, it's okay. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on, again, with your first step uh, video, we were talking, you made it clear that you got to stop the drug first. So isn't that a hitting bottom issue? It's like, people tell me that they want to quit and then they go back to it over and over and over. I've had people relapse for years after I started sponsoring, they continue to relapse. And I won't cut somebody off just because they're relapsing, because
Right.
I know eventually they'll hit bottom. And I just keep pointing out how until you become consistent with your recovery, you're not going to see the benefits.
So,
So,
yeah, at some point, I just like to call it the thing. Even when we were using, we had a thing. And even when I'm not using, there seems to be a thing. Like something that I have the capability of taking a thing and whatever it is, person, place, or thing, and doing the thing until I'm unmanageable. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And you have to put the thing down, whether it's the bottle, the drug, the person, the place. For me, I think you have to put it down before you can actually start to heal. Because like it's just it. I don't think I don't know how. First of all, I don't know how you can develop a conscious contact with the God of your understanding if you're still using,
right.
or how could you truly love yourself to truly love another human being if you're still using? Because you can't really love yourself if you're using. I mean,
Right. And here's an interesting thing. People say, oh, I don't believe in God. I go, well, when you're using, that is your God. That's your higher power. That becomes it's your source for inner peace. It takes you out of your traumas and you can escape and be this other version of yourself that's not hurting, that's not suffering. But the problem is eventually it's going to stop working, because the longer we're trapped in addiction, the more we accumulate new traumas, missing your kids, events, disappointing your parents, stealing, lying, cheating, all these behaviors that go along with addiction. And it doesn't have to be drugs or alcohol. I've seen people with hoarding problems.
sure, man.
And
Yeah.
They have a Clutterers Anonymous. People have problems cluttering. I mean, the last count, I've counted like 44 different anonymous programs. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, you can now if you seen I don't know if it was that first step video, but I make a comment about how I think I could have got off of heroin even if I went to Overeaters Anonymous.
right,
It's about the step work. At some point, you have to, like, for me, drugs got me to the program, but I haven't used drugs in over 7 years. Drugs isn't the problem anymore. You know, they were the most obvious symptom when they were happening. Now the most obvious symptom is whatever is currently got me. You know what I mean? That has nothing to do with drugs. That's a hard thing. That right there is a hard thing for people to get a grasp of, because a lot of people get clean or sober and they think all I got to do is put this bottle down and this drug and everything will be okay.
right.
You know what I mean? Just get me a nice girlfriend, just get me a nice house, a good job, and I'll be good. And come to find out, you haven't explored why it was you were doing the drug or the drink, man. That in there is the thing.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I spent a lot of years in and out of recovery as a dry drunk. And that's basically, it doesn't matter what your addiction is. I think that term dry drunk applies to all of them, where you've broken your obsession for the immediate addiction, but you're not dealing with any of the reasons why you had it.
Right, right.
And so anger issues are pretty common. Being judgmental is common.
Sure.
You know, being manipulative. It's like my father quit drinking in his 20s, but he was a bear. He was an angry, nasty person until he died, because he never did any recovery work. He never developed any self-awareness. He never dealt with any of his past issues. He took all of his resentments to the grave with him. And,
Right.
you know,
And listen, granted, man, at the end of the day, if an addict or an alcoholic, whatever you want to call it, didn't use that day, it's a great day.
yeah,
You know what I mean? But at some point, I wanted to be a better human being. I realized that, like, listen, I need to learn how to be honest. How about that? I mean, the fact that I had to learn how to be honest, you should just be honest regularly. I had to learn how to be honest. Things like that really let me see that, like, there's a deeper problem here than just a drug, you know?
right. And honesty is not just telling the truth. I can tell you the truth, but not have any emotions attached to it.
Right.
And,
It's a good point.
I'm basically just telling you what you want to hear, giving you lip service.
Mm.
Sure. People pleasing.
Yeah.
I'm highly skilled. If I want to be, I'm a highly skilled manipulating people pleasing person. I can be whoever you want me to be.
Yeah.
I have that capability. That's one of the reasons I needed to do some inner searching, man, because I don't want to be that way. That was what it's about.
Yeah, I believe everyone has this multiple personality, and it's not wrong as long as it will not become a disorder, and you are
Right.
not harming anybody or not harming yourself. And the thing with common with you, every human being is really, um, I think everyone has experienced some trauma, but they look at trauma as an ugly thing. So that's why they deny it, and they don't accept that something happened. So they suppress it, they cover it by doing something,
Hmm.
alcohol, whatever, and it become an addiction, but without being aware of it because of shame and guilt, and they want to cover it and pretending, oh, I'm fine, I have recovered, it's a past and I am strong. But
Yeah.
deep inside, you are the only one who knows the real thing, what's going on inside, because we can
Yeah.
have the personality, uh we can show that we are okay, but when you're alone, who are you really? What do you feel? That is the thing that many people are struggling to really know themselves when they are alone. It's easy to project a personality when you're in public.
Right.
This is where, yeah, that is really what I have observed, because you can, especially smart people, fast thinking people, they can shift.
Yeah.
But you cannot escape when you're alone. The moment when you're alone, you know who you are, you know what you are going through. And that is
Mhm.
the thing that really we have to work on, because it's a lifetime process.
It's a lifetime process. Absolutely. And that's one of the benefits of it's another benefit of having a 12-step program, because you have what they call a sponsor that you develop a good relationship with. And through constant contact with your sponsor,
Mhm.
they just know when you're sitting there telling them, I'm good, I'm okay. It's like, no, you're not okay. But you have to let people in. You have
Yeah,
for that to happen,
that is another process. That is another crucial process, because the
right?
ego is there, or whatever you call it. There is always something in between.
The ego
Of,
is the ego is a problem.
Right.
Like, that's a problem.
Yeah, and
And
that's another way to describe it. The 12 steps are a way to reduce your ego, you know, and
yeah,
just
and
set it
increase.
aside. Know where you put it. Just like,
right. Because listen, hey, ego is one of the main reasons people that have been clean, right, go back out and use, because I've seen it plenty of times. They'll come in these meetings and they go, well, yeah, I got something going on, but I've been clean for 10 years. I'm not going to tell these people like, oh, I'm thinking about getting high. What's that going to look like? I'm Mr. Program over here. I can't tell you that I'm feeling like I'm ready to go out. And guess what, man? Secrets keep us sick, right? You got to get it out there, man. And I've seen that take people out. Ego.
Right. And that's one that I give Selena a lot of credit. I give a lot of credit to both of my sponsors. I have sponsors in AA and Al-Anon. And these are safe people for me to talk to. These are people who I can be genuine and really dig into the things that happened to me, knowing that they're not going to judge me, that they're not going to try to, give me unsolicited advice. They're just going to help me reconnect with myself and help me reach acceptance, and I'm going to do a little quick plug here for myself. So I just finished publishing this first copy of it.
Nice.
And
I have a
basically,
copy of it, and I am halfway reading it. It's really, I'm gonna make a review. It's very interesting, really. Thank you so much, Jeff. What an achievement.
yeah,
that's a
it
big
took me
time.
3 years to write it, even though you can read it in 2 hours.
Right.
Yeah. I printed it out, and then I'm reading it, and it's really, I have to reread it again and again before I make a review, because it's really, there's so much value in that book, and I'm sure
Yeah.
it is a very good guide for so many people on
It's
recovery.
amazing. It's amazing what we can do when we put that drug or that drink down. It's
Yeah.
amazing. I've met some of the most talented people in the world in meetings that when they're using, they're not worth anything. But when they put it down and they go through this step process, it's like they just shine. I mean, it really is miraculous where we come from and where we can get to. It's crazy.
Well, and that's one of the things
True.
I go over in the book. There's a reason why 12-step recovery doesn't work for everybody. To me, first, a lot of people have a hard time with the concept of a higher power. If you get upset by the very mention of the word God, then you're probably going to get turned off by 12-step recovery. The other thing
True.
is we need to recognize we're all sick in recovery. That's why we're there. And our unhealed issues will trigger new people coming in. And, so we might be in a variety of different ego traps that, even though for the other people in recovery, they accept us, for newcomers, it's a big turnoff, and we scare people out.
I come across that. So where I work, I happen to come across a lot of active addicts, and that God thing is definitely one of the main things. I'm not into the God. I'm not into the cult kind of atmosphere. Um, that's one of the reasons that I went with the program I did, because it stressed that this is not a religious program; it's a spiritual program, right? So for somebody like me, I'm not religious, and at first, the God thing, it kind of bugged me out. So what I did, kind of like we were talking about when we started rolling this video, when you said why you moved to Detroit.
Yeah.
Well, I went and got a sponsor who was highly religious, right? So I can learn how to do the mental gymnastics it takes, if you know what I'm saying, to take that God word from me and just turn it into good, orderly direction. That's what I learned to do. And I made the higher power thing Narcotics Anonymous as a whole, not individuals, as a whole. And that's how I kind of did that. So it is, you're right. It is something that bugs people out. But I try to tell people it doesn't have to be about a deity. when we're talking about spiritual awakenings, I look at it like, spirit for life, or awareness of your surroundings,
Right.
awareness of nature around you, everything. And so if you heard me and my sponsor talking about God and higher power, you would think we're talking about the same thing.
Mhm.
You understand?
Yeah. Even though you have a completely different language for it.
Even though it's completely different. But I've come to accept the fact that yes, it says God in this literature, it says that, but like that can be for the individual. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
God has a very specific purpose in recovery. It's a benchmark for mental health. Okay, so and we need to recognize that every human being has this benchmark for mental health within them. So how do you connect with that? Do you give it a name? Do you put a face on it? That's up to you. That's up to you. For me,
That's a good point.
it's for me, inner peace, just being peaceful. When I'm peaceful, I'm at my healthiest. And so I try to think of that as my higher power, peace.
Hey, yeah. And
That is really true.
go ahead, go
Mhm.
ahead. Selena.
Yeah, I used to be very, when I was young, really focused on one religion, which is not bad. I have learned a lot. But what I've learned, when people really focus on one religion, there is one set of beliefs, and then they disregard the other. That's what not everybody. I think that the main thing is, we all believe that there is something, the higher power, awareness, whatever you call it. But what I've learned is just be open. It's not, there's nothing wrong with being religious, as long as it will not make you become a close-minded human being.
Right.
That's what I have learned, because it's okay. I was really trying to connect, because when I was young, I was really focused, very devoted to one religion. And then I've noticed things. So I tried to find the link between science, theology, spirituality, religion, or whatever it is, and be open, respect people's belief. And then if we can do that, it is easy to understand where people are coming from, and we don't take it personally anymore. Their comments about us, about their reaction, about what we are telling them. Not everybody can accept what we are telling them. But if you understand them, you just accept that their level of perception is not the same as yours.
Right.
And that's the main thing.
Open-mindedness is a huge thing. So, you can't graft a new idea on a closed mind. I mean, right? That's just the way it is. But
True.
yeah, I had to come to terms with, because when we get clean, we tend to want to come in and look for all the differences, which pushes us out.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons we go out, because we're so
Mhm.
focused on the differences. Well, I only smoked weed. That guy did heroin. So what could he tell me? Oh, that guy just drank. I was eating out of garbage cans and smoking crack. You know what I mean?
Right.
We just, oh, he's black, I'm white. She's old, I'm young. I mean, we just look for the differences. But my recovery really didn't start till I was able to just keep pulling the similarities out. It just became about pull the similarities out. It's about the message, not the messenger. And
Mm,
that's when my
right.
recovery started to flourish, really.
Right.
These things ain't easy to do. It's not like, you wake up and you come to terms with all this. Like this, like you said, it's a process.
Yeah, it becomes a life process. And two things about that. First, you sponsor a number of people, right?
Yeah, I got two sponsees.
Okay. Have you ever had to let a sponsee go?
Yeah, I've had sponsees die on me,
Oh yeah.
so let them go. Well, I let them go in the sense of, okay, you be where you're at when you're ready. you come, you call me.
Right.
I get to a point where I will no longer chase you because
Sure.
you have to show willingness. I can't. That's one thing I can't guide you to is willing. You like willingness got to come from you. And we have a saying like it's well, it reflects on the fact that like not everybody is ready, right, Jeff? Like not everybody is ready. Not everybody wants a solution. They're still trying
No.
to fix a problem with a
Right.
problem. You know what I mean? So you can only like carry a message. You can't save it. You can't save an addict. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not willing, man. You got to be willing.
Well, you can't work the program for them either. You know,
Right.
it's a self-awareness thing. I can't give you self-awareness. I can show you the tools,
No.
and then you have to
Right.
apply them.
You can. You can. This. I know what it is. You can't. You can only carry the message. You can't carry the addict.
Right. Right.
That's what I'm
That's
saying.
true.
So, but the other
Because
thing is, this honesty training that we go through, do you find that you are kind of a slave to the steps now that you've been through them and have actively applied them?
man, sleep. Well, I guess in a sense, I hate. I hate that I'm so aware. Sometimes it annoys me that I'm so
I can
aware.
understand.
You know, and usually when I become judgmental of somebody, like somebody does something, I'm like, oh my god, how could they? And now it's so fast. I just turn it around on myself. Well, look at you.
Yeah.
Look what you've done. So I can't hold on to it anymore. Even though some people do things that I want to be resentful. I want to hold a grudge, but I can no longer do it. It just comes off so fast because through a 6 and 7 step, and that deals with your character defects and your shortcomings and becoming humble, right? And in that humbleness is where I always have to look at my part, no matter what somebody did to me. I instantly now I go to, well, what was my part?
Yeah.
And that sucks. So yeah, in the
Yeah.
sense of being a slave to it, I mean, but I guess, at this point in today in my life, man, I wouldn't have it any other way. These steps, absolutely. There's no doubt about it.
Well, you
Mhm.
basically said the same thing that I do, just in your own language, because that's all step 10 work. We continue to take a personal inventory, and when we're wrong, promptly admit it. So we got to constantly check ourselves, and it's not fun. I don't enjoy it. I don't like having to look at
No.
myself and go, "I'm the problem." Man, I am so sick of having to go, "I'm the problem." But I also feel compelled. I can't live with myself until I do that. I I I, I get upset. I get disturbed. I can't be peaceful as long as I'm holding on to a resentment. So if I want
Sure.
peace, I got to do the work.
That's
Well,
really very interesting. I can relate to that. Awareness is scary sometimes
mhm,
because you have, the inner talks, the inner conversation is also being active, and it's always two sides. And if you say something, and yeah, it's true. Sometimes you cannot hold being judgmental, but then if you are so quick and aware that, oh, take that other side of you to
right,
yeah, to this make the dialogue active. And I think that is the process. It will never, we will never become so, yeah, so positive that no negativity will come in. We're still human.
right, absolutely right. And
Yeah, the thing
usually,
is,
go
we
ahead.
know.
Right, you're right. Absolutely, it's true. And usually when I find myself somewhere in the midst of all that judging and all that judgmental thing, usually that stems, I find, from me putting expectations on people that I probably shouldn't be putting them on. Like I look at it, it's like an expectation is a resentment in disguise because that's all that's going to come from me when I put unrealistic expectations on somebody. That's usually when I find myself. resentful because they didn't live up to where I thought they should be. They're not being who I think they should be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very interesting. When I hear you, like Jeff, you're talking like there is an acceptance, there is an awareness, like me judging. So you recognize it, you're aware of it, so you can really learn to minimize being judgmental compared to people who are just looking outside, not looking at you, where you were, what you've learned, what you've encountered, because that is the big difference for those people who stay doing their thing, judging people and blaming and this and that. But the thing is, I'm hearing from you, gentlemen, it's really there is surrender, humility, acceptance, that we all take part of everything that is happening to us. Not every time that we can control, we can
Right.
shift to positive reaction, but the awareness is there. We can learn and do something, do better next time.
Yeah, I mean, most of life for me is how I'm reacting to it. It's very rare that things just happen that I had. Well, I don't know if we control anything, to be honest with you. I mean, really, if you really think about it, I guess on a basic level, maybe there's some things, but usually it comes down to how I react to the certain person, place, or thing that's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just learning through experiences, just learning. Wow, just knowing how it did the last time, what are the consequences, then you can do it better unconsciously or consciously. That's the thing.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, one of the things that continues to trouble me is this behavior called gaslighting.
Yeah.
I've done
Interesting.
lots of it. I did years of that, going in and messing with people's heads. And now when people do it to me, a lot of times I get really upset, especially when it's just ridiculous. When I say something that is helpful and true and kind, and then somebody comes along and says, that's wrong, when they didn't even understand what I posted,
Right.
and it's
Yeah.
like you can't overcome that. You've already lost. You've already lost because they've made up your mind that you don't know what you're talking about, and
Right.
that they're right and you're not. And it's like there's nothing you can say to a person who's gaslighting.
It goes back to better to be understanding and understood. You know,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
as long as I can just understand that they don't understand, I'm good. That's it. And I'm at peace because it just causes so much more stress when you just sit there and try to make somebody understand your point. It's just like there becomes a point where you just got to kind of back off it and just go, hey, you know what? They are where they are. I am where I am. Let me move on.
yeah. Well, and I
Yeah.
do, I do recognize the reason it upsets me is because I hate that about myself.
Yeah,
Exactly, man.
that's the thing. I
Exactly,
get it.
man.
But you are on the process, and being here, it's already a big thing. And admitting that is already a big thing.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
I tell people, listen, this is what I want you. Here's a good exercise. Go find the person in your life that you can't stand the most, the one that just annoys you when you're around them. I said, look at them long enough, and what's going to happen is you're going to see yourself, and that's what's annoying you is what you see when you see yourself in somebody else that's annoying you. That's what makes you angry. It could just be coming out in a different way, but that's what's happening. Usually, I'm recognizing one of my character defects or
Right.
one of my shortcomings in somebody else, which in turn makes me angry. And I
Right.
direct it towards the person, but really it's about me.
Well, and that's the
Yeah.
thing. If you didn't have it in yourself, you wouldn't see it.
You wouldn't recognize
Mm,
it.
yes.
Right.
Because there is a saying that goes that it's not about someone or something irritating you. You have to check yourself. It could
Mhm.
be you being irritated.
Right. That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, that is deep because sometimes we just react automatically and like take it personally. Oh, that person is so and so. So, but sometimes if we take a deep breath and then figure it out, but it's a process. I know I get your point, Chef, but you are really making a lot of effort admitting that, and you want to you hate that part of yourself doing that. That is already a very effective, a big step forward.
Yeah, and
Sure.
I remember that
Yeah.
from the last podcast we talked about, that pause, the taking the breath, and then returning yourself to peace before you respond. And it's difficult because even as much as I've recovered, I still have this. They hurt me, I want to hurt them back. You know,
Sure.
and it's especially if I'm trying to be the best version of myself, and somebody finds fault in that. I, that was a behavior that I had that I did a lot of, and uh, now that I've overcome it, it just really bothers me when other people do it because the way I sponsor people, it doesn't matter what they tell me, I don't judge them. I don't point out their flaws. I recognize, okay, they're in denial about this, and I step off. So when somebody wants to, like get in there and take a dig at me, it's like it just seems unfair. And that's all it comes down to, is it's just unfair. But that's why I continue to have this podcast, so that I can learn and grow, and hopefully overcome that, every one of my character defects eventually.
Yeah. Well,
Well, it's
go ahead. Go ahead, Selena.
it's that there is what they call the battle of egos. No, battle between egos. So when you say something and you know it's right, you know it works, and then they act negatively, and then it activate your ego unconsciously
Yeah.
because
Right.
you know it's right. But and what happened? There is a battle of egos, and if that happens, nothing really wins.
That's an interesting point. Yeah. You're
Yeah.
right. That's probably exactly what's happening in
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. I agree to that.
What- For sure.
And most of the time it's unconscious. We don't
Right.
recognize that right away. It's unconscious because the ego is a kind of autopilot.
It's almost instinctual.
Yeah.
It's like it's just like anything else in life. It's almost like on a level of eating food, drinking water. You know, it's instinctual when I do these things. You talked about a pause. When I first got clean, my pause was about 0.1 seconds, and at this point, I probably got about a good minute. That's a long time for an addict with the disease of addiction to be able to pause for before they react.
Yeah.
Mhm.
A minute's a long time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's another thing that following this 12-step program has given me, is that pause where, okay, let me take a look at this situation. Where
Mm.
am I standing on something here that I really don't need to stand on? You know what I mean? Do I need to fight this battle here, or live
Mm-hmm.
to see another one? Things like that. Because some things, it just comes down to, like, sometimes you just gotta let people be where they are. You gotta just let them be where they are.
Yeah.
It
Well,
saves you a lot of stress.
that's a good point. See, I know better, and I used to be able to do this more often, but I recognize that, when somebody's in denial, first thing you want to do is agree with them. You don't take the opposite stance. If somebody says, "Oh, well, you should really go to the hospital for that," you go, "Yeah, you're right. You're right. You should go to the hospital for that." That's not exactly what I was trying to say, but I see your point.
Yeah,
Because again, you're not going to change their mind. They're right. They
and you can disarm somebody like that.
yeah,
Just, yeah, you're right, but and then you just kind of go, and then you just kind of lead it to another direction, and maybe they can, they can kind of see where you're coming from. But you're right. If you just come up, you don't know what you're talking about, people get defensive. And at that point, the conversation is probably over. But even though you're still in it.
Yeah, well, and to me, that's the real issue. It's like if somebody comes at me telling me that I'm wrong, that's just an immediate sign of disrespect, and that's why I respond poorly to it. You know, because
Yeah,
I'm not going to be.
your ego, Jeff, is very
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
protective, very protective of you. You know, because you are always on point. And then one thing I've learned in RTT is that one of the role of the ego is to protect you. So when you teach something, when you want, you have the good intention to share, to help people, and they don't accept it, that's your ego is automatically protecting you. Like, oh, how come they don't accept it? You're right, and that's the thing. That's why you are triggered, and you cannot control it anymore. But
Yeah,
you will get there. You're really going there.
yeah, right. Well, and there's something that a lot of people who take their recovery seriously generally know this one fact: addiction's not a choice. People think we're choosing that, and
No,
it's not really a choice. It's your subconscious mind dragging you into a behavior outside of your, that's more than your willpower, that's stronger than your willpower. Because if it was just up to your willpower, you wouldn't be doing it. Because deep down, everybody knows if you're trapped in an addiction, it's painful. You're causing damage. You know,
Sure.
but I get into discussions with people and they want to say, well, I chose to drink too much and it was all my idea. And I'm like, I don't think you really understand yourself that well, frankly, because,
Right.
those choices, we have a finite number of choices based on the things we've experienced in life. I can't just suddenly start speaking Portuguese because I want to. You know,
Right.
I need to have taken classes and learned, somehow that language. And it's the same with drinking and or drug addiction. I can't just suddenly stop being an addict because I want to.
Right.
I know I tried and it failed every time. The way I work is I go back to that stuff over a long enough period of time. I will return to just about every addiction I've ever had.
Yeah, I actually, so I'll be in meetings sometimes and I kind of cringe when it's just the way I look at it. Somebody will share how, I'm so glad that I have the choice whether I want to use today or not. One of those things. And I say to myself, man, I can promise you this. If I go back out and use, I left myself no choice. And that's why I'm using. The choices occur with me. I have a choice to go to the meeting. I have a choice to do the step work. I have a choice to call my sponsor. I have those are my choices. But when I stop doing these things and I stop treating my disease, because to me that's what my 12-step program does. It treats my disease. So when I stop treating the disease I have, I ultimately leave myself no choice. I will use. It might take a little bit, but I will use because it goes back to that like instinctual thing, man. Just like this is what I do to seek comfort. I get high,
Right.
you know.
And another point about that is with addictions, I try to explain to people if you can stop every time when you want to,
Yeah.
then you're probably not an addict. I can't. And I
Right.
mean every time. I can stop sometimes when I want to. And then there's other times where I don't know what happened. It just went completely out of control, especially with my drinking. There's nights that I'd end up waking up in some complete stranger's house next to a stinky dog piled in garbage, and I'm like, how the hell did I get here? And
Right.
I sure didn't plan on that. But the longer I drank, the more of those types of incidents I was having.
Well, I believe there might it's my own kind of theory, I guess. I believe that there's people that come into these meetings I go, and some of them come in with the disease of addiction, and some of them come in with a substance abuse problem. And to me, there's a difference. See, you can have something occur in your life, something traumatic, to where you turn to a bottle, you turn to a pill, maybe you get around the wrong people, but you may not have the disease of addiction. So, which to me means if you can get yourself away from the drug long enough, you can realize the error of your ways and not do it anymore. Me, I can't do that. Like I keep using till the wheels fall off.
Right.
And then if I just stay absent and don't treat my disease with, I chose a 12-step program to deal with, I will use again, knowing the devastation that's coming.
Right. Yeah, I've been highly addicted to opiates twice, both under doctor's prescription. You give me a bottle of 100, I might take them as prescribed the first day, maybe not even that long. Guaranteed, I will be abusing that substance within a very short period of time. I have no self-control when it comes to that stuff. It's like, well, if 3 are good, then 4 is better.
4 is better. Yeah, they make a joke. They say, if you could get recovery in a pill, I would take 2.
Right. Yeah. So.
Yeah, very interesting topic.
Well, Selena, I appreciate you joining us, and don't worry about the little hiccup in the beginning. Not a big deal at all. Thank you for being instrumental in keeping the conversation going. Anything you care to add that may have come up while you were listening?
I think we've talked a lot of polio stuff, and I think we just continue talking about this stuff because repetition is really very powerful.
Sure.
Yeah, we have to do it because it's getting deeper, it's just decision making, conscious and unconscious. Then we cannot talk about that maybe next time because it's really how we'll learn to like why do I do this? Because we develop entity or ego or subconscious, whatever you call it. And aside of that, there is this higher self, higher power, inner knowing, whatever we call it. And we really have the power to choose where to act. The thoughts are always working 24/7. And then it is on us to decide. But when it comes to an addiction, there is no time and space to decide. It's just like, oh, I want this. So I want this now. And I have to enjoy this. But if the mind cannot hold 2 conflicting beliefs and that belief, you're gonna take action of it. So you only have to choose one. Which one you have to take action. But we always choose the easy one, where we think we have pleasure, and that is just an immediate pleasure. We will continue. I think we have to continue this discussion. It's really getting interesting. Jeff, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Brian, love to have you back sometime. And if
Absolutely.
you know anybody else who might want to appear on the show, that'd be great too.
I could probably find some interesting people for you, man. Yeah. I would just like to say, so I started this YouTube channel about addiction.
Yeah.
People want to check that out. It's Truth Addiction, one word. It's not 2 separate words. And the reason I started because I haven't been doing it that long, but I felt the need to start to recover out loud, man. Because we're at a point now where you have 200 people, over 200 people a day dying from fentanyl, and we hit the 120,000 mark OD deaths every year in this country. So I just wanted to put it out there that, an addict can stop using drugs and lose a desire to use and find a new way of life, man. And that's what I'm here to do. Just carry the message that, no matter how much your head lies to you, that you can't stop using it, you can't change your life, that you can do it. And that's all I got to say on that.
Yeah, I pulled up your website real quick. Again, that's Truth Addiction on YouTube, and it comes right up.
Yeah, I've watched few Oh, it is very interesting, Brian, and thank you so much. And
Thank you.
I hope you come back, Jeff. Maybe we have to do another episode with Brian. It's very
Yeah, I'll
interesting.
definitely come back. Just hit me up whenever you guys want.
Great. All right, well,
Thank you,
that's it for
Brian.
today. You guys have a
Enjoy your
blessed day.
day.
Take it easy. You guys too. Have a good day.
All right.
Bye bye.